Oh, they've done it! Steven Terodde, an instant hero! Can you believe it? Plenty attacking! No! The comeback is complete! A stunning second half from Schalke!
Blau und Weiß sein Leben lang. Welcome to episode 147 of SchalkeMerica. The intro is nice and short. I'm your host, also short, Richard Carmen. Joining me as always, co-host Jack Mangan. Jack, happy Thursday. What day is it? Wednesday, Thursday?
Yeah, I mean, typically we'll have the Victory Monday. This was a whenever we get to it, loss kind of podcast. Of course, Valentine's Day on Monday. And I think I already steal you enough away from the misses as it is. Didn't want to interfere with that day of all days. So, but yeah, looking forward to chatting about what was a pretty disappointing result given the opponent. A Dusseldorf team hanging out near the bottom of the table. The kind of game that if you're looking to get promoted, you got to get 3 points from it, and we did not do that. So that was very disappointing.
Yeah, we're with each other often enough, but I don't think you'd want me to move in with you because that's probably what would have to happen if I missed Valentine's Day with my wife. So yeah, we got to delay it, and there was no big rush because again we didn't win, and so no Victory Monday to celebrate, and so we just took our time getting here. And honestly, we have a game this Friday against Paderborn. It is now a must-win because after the results of this last weekend, but it was a game we thought we should have had easily won. We had played really well, come up to this point. It looked like it could have been a trap game, even though we're playing a team that's second bottom or third bottom of the table. It sure enough ended up being one. We ended up having a watch along during the game, and so we always joke about going up the highs and lows of the game, and that game certainly provided to have highs and lows in that game. But let's get into the lineups first. For us, we were the visitors in this one. Frazel in goal as normal. Back three went back to the normal, quote unquote, normal back three of Kaminsky on the left, Itakura in center, and Tiao on the right. Midfield five was interesting. The middle three was the same: Paulsen, Idrizi, and Salazar. Olian on the left, Stallworth there. On the right wing was Marius Bulter, and then up top you had Pieringer and Terodde. And so Jack, going into the game, we heard rumors that it was going to be Pieringer, Bulter, and Terodde. My fear was that Bulter was going to be on the right wing, and sure enough, we saw him on the right wing. But what were your thoughts, going into the game with seeing Bulter on the right?
I mean, it's generous to even call it right wing to some extent. I mean, you could call it like right back or right wing back. I mean, I know because especially when Schalke is struggling to, connect any passes. And get any sort of semblance of possession, as was the case for most of the first half, you're playing pretty deep. And at that point, he essentially is playing a largely defensive role and not, not like he's playing as like a wide forward. So yeah, when I saw that, I was pretty surprised by that. I would have thought that Cherlanov would have been who you would put back there in the situation. And it's kind of ridiculous that we're even in a position to have to consider somebody like Bulter for this when we should have, some decent depth there. But, obviously Iden's still not back yet. And Ranfel hasn't been good recently anyway. But pretty shocking for me to see Bulter in that position. I think to some extent he acquitted himself decently. But he's not particularly mobile. He'll put in the shift in terms of his work rate, but he doesn't cover that much ground that easily.
No.
And so I thought that, just very strange. And I mean, I would have almost preferred to have you call up a youth kid from the Knappen-Schmiede and give somebody like that an opportunity. I mean, if we're really in a position where we're playing people that aren't, of that position, then if it's Dusseldorf, just, give the opportunity to somebody else. How did you feel about it?
Yeah. And you know what, before I even knew that Bulter was going to play, I was like, if we're not going to be playing Ranfel or obviously not Vinheim and Cherlanov, maybe Lee Dong-Jong would be interesting, but he's a new guy. He's still not with the team, so he needs some time to get used to it and come out. He's probably going to come off as a sub anyway. Then when I heard Bulter's name mentioned in possibly in a certain lineup, I said, well, hopefully Gramozis changes to a front three, and I can see that working because Bulter's really good on the left. Pieringer's mobile enough; he could do it on the right with Terodde in the middle. In no shape, way, or form did I want to see Bulter playing in the right wing as Ronfel or Vinheim had played. And sure enough, he gets in the lineup there, and I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work. If you're going to try it, it's going to be a team against like Dusseldorf because you have a chance that you should win that game. Obviously, didn't work out. They had a new manager bump up, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, it was disappointing to see, and we saw from the whole get-go that it did not work whatsoever. You mentioned that he is not mobile enough to do the position, and if it was just us in the attack, okay, it could work out. But when you're forced to play defense and he's not defensive by any nature, Cherlanov would have been a far better option than that. We have been angry at how Cherlanov plays defense, but at least he's got the pace to make it running back and forth. Bulter, while he makes the runs and has good energy, he's not that kind of guy. And so it was frustrating to see him in that position, especially as the game wore on. Looking at some of the guys on the bench, you had Loda, probably couldn't put there. Rozakowski, he's not that great. Cherlanov, like you mentioned, should have been in probably the right wing position. Flick, more defensive back. Salif Sane. Matriciani is another option, not that great this season. Mikhailov, and then the new man, Lee Dong-jong.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if you had like a Timo Becker. Yeah, imagine that. Maybe that would have been useful. But...
yeah.
Take a sip of the water there. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's okay though. The other thing that was interesting to me is that we've talked about Salazar struggling recently, and there was some, I think, articles or something that came out that said that obviously he was pretty self-critical as well and was pretty motivated to turn things around, and so he was included in the lineup yet again. And I actually think he ended up being pretty good in this one. I mean, by the standards of this particular game, pretty quiet early on, but a lot of our good offensive moments had him involved in it in this one. So shout out to him.
And I even think that, with what we have at our disposal, you could have put a Salazar or even a Idrisi on the right wing. No, it's not our preferred, but you can bring in like a Flick or someone else in that middle and put Idrisi or Salazar on the right. They could have done a much better job, I think, both back and forward than compared to Bulter. Bulter would be definitely option on the attack, but defensively, he just wasn't an option there really for us. Didn't do well. I mean, he did okay for what he was asked to do, but out of position really the whole game. We talked about the new manager bump for Dusseldorf. It certainly helped. We worried about this in the Sandhausen match that they may have that opportunity with the new manager to get that bump. They didn't have it in that match, but Dusseldorf certainly did in this game. Looking at their starting 11 here, Kastemeyer, Hoffman, Petriowski, Ginczek, Nari, who was man of the match for me, Appelkamp, Zimmerman, Hennings, who's the main goal scorer, Device. Device was a pain in the ass all game long for us. Constantly drawing fouls, but always around in the play defensively. Sobotka had a very good game as well, and Gavori. The game, we all knew that who Hennings is, right? He's a notorious goal scorer, especially against us, it seems like. So we knew that he was the main guy to mark. But I mean, honestly, going into this game, Nari is a guy who ended up being the man for me in the match because I think he caused so much and was constantly going down against us. What were your thoughts on their starting 11?
Yeah, I mean, like Hennings obviously is a name that Schalke fans will know. Sobotka as well. I would agree though that Khalid Nari was easily, I think, their best player overall. As you said, went to him early and often. I think one of the first actions of the match was I want to say it was probably Gavori. Who had a decent game as well. He played some nice balls at times. I think he just, immediately was trying to play a long ball over the top with Nari running at Kaminsky and them trying to take advantage of that. And so much of what Dusseldorf tried to do was down that right-hand side, either kind of like more direct play over the top, trying to take advantage of his pace, or, you'd see like Piotrowski get over there and like Henning slide over and they try to create these overloads or these triangles in the right side and then quickly kind of like change the ball towards the center, and, hopefully having some things open in the middle there. And it didn't really pay off for them in the first half in terms of actually getting a goal. But pretty dominant in the first half overall in a lot of areas. And Neri was a big part of that.
Yeah, he certainly was. And one thing that was evident to me, at least in the first half, was that, looking back at this whole season, one of the main weaknesses for us that we've been unable to defend, and we've done better in the last month or so. But what really has beaten us is the direct ball, especially the ones over top of us. For some reason, our defenders, as mobile as they are, can't seem to cope with that. And beginning of the season, when we were getting beat fairly well, that was what was beating us, a direct play. And in this game, you saw off the bat, Dusseldorf not only pressing like we normally do, they were pressing, so we couldn't press, and they were going with that direct play, and it kept getting behind us, like you mentioned. It kept going over the top, trying to get Nari or trying to get Hennings and switching up the play. They played very well, Dusseldorf did, and that manager bump was very real for them. They didn't look like a bottom-of-the-table team, and I mean, looking at the possession of the first half, it was something in the range of 70-30 for most of that first half.
The pressure they put on us the second they turned the ball over was significant. Really, I mean, the first 30 minutes of the game, I don't know if Terada had a touch.
Yeah,
honestly, I mean, the ball just never got up that high up the field to them. I mean, we rarely had the ball in their half, let alone their final third. Really struggling to connect passes. 2 or 3 players getting swarming the ball the second it's turned over, that kind of thing. And that pressure kept up for the entire first half. And you can see it was wearing us down. We almost looked tired from the beginning in this one, honestly.
Didn't we? Yeah.
And they just had much more energy and intent. We weren't, putting that kind of pressure on them. Struggled to pass our way out of it, struggled to create, the triangles that we needed to kind of avoid these things when the pressure comes. And a lot of guys just, rather than trying to play a quick pass, just get sucked into these dribble actions that they just collapse on themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We just couldn't pass around it.
One of the better plays for us in the first half, early on at least. Bulter, we said he wasn't playing so well on the right-hand side. He did get the ball like deep in our end. He made this long run across the pitch, and we had an okay chance there. But for the most part, I mean, like you said, the press was killing us. We couldn't string passes together. Frazel, anytime he tried to distribute the ball, would go right to a Dusseldorf player. I mean, we were just shooting ourselves in the foot.
Frazel had a poor game, and I think even had a very poor first half before, any of the goals were scored or anything. Not a good showing from him at all.
Sorry, drinking my water and got the mute on.
I stopped talking in a wrong moment there.
So, speaking of wrong moments, and the game was going so well for Dusseldorf, and we finally got a break here. It was a nice play on the right-hand side between Pieringer and Salazar. Salazar gets into the box, crosses looking for Terada. Terada misses a point-blank shot, but luckily enough, Idrisi doing what you're supposed to be doing as an attacker, getting the back door. He got the ball right to him, scored the goal. Nothing like that. I thought that was a blessing in disguise because, one, it would have been a terrible team talk, first of all, because the team was so poor. Maybe we needed that. But now we get, it's always demoralizing when you give up a goal late in the first half, in a half or whatever. And so us getting the goal, we got a chance to recoup, play better because we played so poor in the first half. I thought this was a good sign for us. Thoughts on the goal and how you thought maybe it would have shaped us going into the second half?
I mean, credit to whatever the halftime team talk was, because I felt like that should have been much more demoralizing than it ultimately was, given once again how dominant Dusseldorf were in the first half and how much control they had on that match, and the way that goal in particular just kind of came out of nothing very quickly and was very much against the run of play, and we probably hadn't deserved a goal by that point in the game. But yeah, ball finds its way to Pieringer. Salazar's kind of streaking up the right-hand side, picks it up. Both Idrisi and Terada are trying to kind of make the same near post run. And Terada's a little bit ahead of Idrisi. And luckily Idrisi kind of realizes that and starts peeling off and heading back post. And he's calling for the ball. Doesn't get it. As you said, Salazar fires it in near post to Terada, who almost looked like he barely got anything on it, which was surprising because as you said, it was kind of point blank. And it just sneaks through, and Idrisi is there to clean it up. He made a great, back post peel run to be able to be in the right place at the right time. If one of those slid through, and it did. And he, made no mistake about it. So credit to him. I thought that was an intelligent piece of movement from the youngster, which was good to see. And a nice ball from Salazar. And I think one of the only other looks at goal we kind of had earlier in the match also came from a Salazar cross. Mm-hmm. I think that one maybe scored it out kind of back to the far side of the box too, and nothing really came of it. But
Jordan had a header. It was right to the goalkeeper, I think it was.
Something I don't know. But yeah. So anyway, the limited opportunities we had, he did seem to be involved in some extent.
Yeah. So Salazar looked good in the first half. Oh, he got better as the game went on, I should say. But those nice plays by him. The only chances we had came through Salazar, and I think maybe as much as I wanted this to be a good blessing in disguise, getting a late goal and be able to recoup, it seemed like the opposite because, like you mentioned, it should have been a more demoralizing speech at halftime, and it wasn't. Maybe they were too high on themselves. I don't know. I go on my break. I was actually trying to send an email out for work during the halftime. I come back. Lo and behold, Dusseldorf scored 2 minutes into the second half. Nari gets a goal. the direct play once again, right off the second half, over the top. It goes to, actually, Kaminsky gets the ball, it does well to get the ball, but then he tries too much. I don't know what the heck he does, misreads it completely. Nari just gets him out of the way and goes on a breakaway pretty much and scores the goal, Jack. 1-1, right, 2 minutes, just off the second half. Worst way you could possibly start.
Yeah, it's a big mistake from Kaminsky. There's no way around it. And I understand there's a big pace difference there, which, as we said, they were trying to take advantage of in the first half. Anyway, so we knew this was a thing, but yeah, it's a quick through ball that gets played very direct in the middle. And Kaminsky has multiple steps on there, and in my opinion, it looked like he could have gotten to the ball or should have gotten to the ball and either played it back to Frazel or cleared it out or done something. And somehow he just kind of allows Nara to get in there. And I don't know if he was trying to box him out and take a steadying touch or something, or what he was doing, but ultimately just gives the ball away, and then it's a 1-on-1 with the keeper, and now he finishes it pretty quickly. And that was you just can't. I mean, it's a stupid goal. You're handing it on a silver platter. One of the main deficiencies in Kaminsky's game is just his pace. It hasn't been that much of a problem for us this season
until now,
overall. But I mean, this is the kind of matchup where it can be. And we survived the first half of this. Yeah, it's just a bad mistake. And like I said, you can partially blame it on the pace, but I think Kaminsky should have done better in general.
Yeah, he should have. And it wasn't like this was out of the blue, something Nari had been building all game long, constantly going down. He had some opportunities in the first half. Very much involved in lots of the plays before this goal, and then he goes and scores a goal. So it wasn't like it was out of the blue, right? And then so they kept building and building. Again, Nari involved. Maybe just 10 minutes later, some passes around and end up a guy who we talk about pregame, Hennings, their main goal scorer, the one everybody knows, the only player that anybody knows from Dusseldorf, wide open in the box. He gets the ball, puts it away, 2-1, just like that. Down 2-1. As soon as we went down, I'm like, the way this game going, there's no way we're gonna come back. I mean, you always had that hope. What happened on that play there?
I mean, yeah, it was one-way traffic from Dusseldorf to start the second half as well. Ultimately, the game opened up a little bit, and so it was a lot of back and forth and a lot of more transition play. And so that kind of actually worked, I think, to our favor a little bit because it opened up some of that condensed pressure that they were able to apply in the first half. But yeah, on that particular play, building on the right-hand side again, ball gets played kind of centrally into the box. I forget who had it. I forget who actually ultimately gives the assist, but he starts kind of moving horizontally across the box to his right. And I think multiple center backs kind of got caught ball watching, I should say. Hennings is just kind of in a little bit more space than he probably should have been. At least one of them probably should have stepped up and gotten a little bit closer to him, if not put a body on him. And, suddenly the ball's played quickly backwards to the center of the box and he's there in space and, takes full advantage of it. So, I don't know if it's like an egregious defensive mistake, but it definitely wasn't a good look and just a lack of focus, in my opinion, probably. In that particular situation, but they were under a lot of pressure from Dusseldorf at that moment. So you can understand potentially being a little bit more frazzled and kind of moving around more. So that was it was unfortunate. Like you said, we stole the goal early to get the lead, kind of against the run of play. And then, I think Dusseldorf ultimately got what they probably deserved from this one. And it was a matter of whether or not we could find a way to pull something back.
Yeah, and you saw Gramozis immediately try to make a reaction change because of that. You had Pieringer come off, Darko Cherlinov come on, Idrizi went off, Lee Dong-jong came on to try to spark the offense there. Later on, we would see Salater come off and Razakowski, not necessarily an upgrade there. And so we saw a cameo appearance by Salif Sane at the end. But ultimately, not enough all the way around. 2-1 loss to Fortuna Dusseldorf. Just look at the statistics. They're just 21-12 in shots, corners 8-2. They dominated. That tells the story right there how good they were compared to us. And passes, they had almost 100 more passes than us. And you can always tell the team who passes more is one is winning the game. And the times we've won this year, we've dominated that statistic. And they beat us there. And even the passing percentage, I think we were okay. We were in low 70s, and they were in the 80s. They just played a good game. It's point blank, and it was pretty abysmal performance, honestly. the trap game lived to its fruition. The manager bump was real, and it's 3 points that we lost. I mean, there were some results this weekend that kind of were in our favor, but ultimately, not good enough. I mean, at the final table right now, St. Pauli's at the top of 41, tied with Werder. Hamburger and Darmstadt below them at 40. So we're still in 5th place and 37, but we could have been, in 4th place instead of 5th.
Yeah, there's no reason that we should be on 37 points right now. We should be level with Hamburg for sure. It's just not a serious performance from a team that's taking itself seriously and has serious ambitions. And that's no disrespect to Düsseldorf, because it was a good performance from Düsseldorf. I think they deserved that win. And they were significantly better than us for a lot of that game and a lot of areas of that game. So credit to the new manager, but once again, it's a team that's at the near the bottom of the table. I believe that we have the personnel in terms of like the talent in the squad to compete at the top of the table. And these are games that you have to win. The first half in particular, I mean, you're watching that and you're like, this can't be happening.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get promoted, you can't be letting a 16th place team, whatever, have this kind of dominance. And to me, once again, this is where Grammatics comes in. You have to be able to have a system in place and coach these players to in some of these higher intensity games when they're getting put under a lot of pressure. They have to be able to find ways to kind of pass out of this a little bit better. You can't just have Terada sitting in the first half for the vast majority of 45 minutes, never getting anywhere near a ball. Like, you have to at least, we couldn't advance the ball up the wings and at least like play crosses in, which is sort of like the poor man's offense, which is just, we have no ideas. We're just going to whip in crosses all day. We couldn't even get in a position to do that. This is why, Christmas, when we're talking about what we think is going to happen, I believe this team can get promoted, and I think it's still obviously a mathematical possibility, could end up happening. But these are the things. It's like, this kind of thing to me is more on the coach than anybody. I don't know, man. Yeah, not a good moment.
And it's not like the place isn't the point, right? We're in 5th place. Would have been in 4th place. Even if the result went, we could have still. It's not where we are in place. It's the points. If we had the 3 more points, we still would probably be where we are on the table, but that's 3 more points we would have. And when it comes down to the end of the race, it's all going to be about points, not place. And we're going to, if we end up missing promotion by 3 points, 2 points, we're going to look at this game and be like, what the hell? There's
exactly. And this is why when people were like, saying
we'll go right back up.
Bremen, the result that got stolen against us, like, oh my God, if we don't get promoted, like, this is why. It's like, no, it's not. It's because we went on the road to a, bottom feeder and gotten, absolutely played off the pitch. That's why. That's why you're not good enough to get promoted. So if that's what happens, it's not because of bad referee decisions, because of games like this where you just didn't show up personally. Not enough. Yeah. And I hate to be like, we just didn't want it enough and be like that kind of, like lowbrow narrative driven,
but we didn't.
Whatever. But something felt off from the very beginning of the match. Like you said, just the approach to that game, we were very lethargic. It's
like we took it for granted, right? It's like, oh, it's a bottom table team,
potentially,
easily,
and just no ability to make adjustments mid half from Grammatics on the sideline and communicate anything. And I know it's difficult, and when there's no timeouts in a sport like soccer compared to other things, but just like we just seem to be like on the same trajectory the entire half with nothing changing or improving. And it wasn't really until the game, like we said, kind of opened up and got more end to end that we really started getting chances with any frequency. And that's, once again, as I've been saying all season, it's the times where we look most dangerous are the transition moments where they actually have some creative freedom to do some things on their own. And when it's, in more bogged down situations, we really struggle.
Jake says, odd to me that Grammatics would play Bolter out of position. Yep. Much of our possession goes through those wide players, and you can't have a player who's uncomfortable in that position. I agree 100%. And Owion was remarkably quiet in this game, mostly because Dusseldorf really had one place to worry about, and that was his side. And the pressure that they put on didn't allow him to do what he normally does. And so, full credit goes to Dusseldorf for that. And a lot of the criticism has to go to Grammatics for that. The one you talk about the creative and freedom. The one time I started getting a glimmer of hope is when the new man came on, Lee Dong-jong, had some nice plays there. What are your thoughts on his debut? And we heard a lot about him coming in there. We were very stagnant in the middle, not only in this game, but throughout the season, and we needed someone like a playmaker. What did you see from him? Did you like anything from him? Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is I thought it was a strange moment to play him.
Yeah.
On the road, down in a game where you shouldn't be losing is a difficult moment to just get your first minutes with the team.
Yeah.
Not an ideal, situation to bring him into, in my opinion. So I thought that was kind of eyebrow raising. That's the player that he chose. Not that we all don't want to see him and see what he has, to be capable of. But once again, I kind of parachute him in a more ideal environment. I honestly didn't think he made much of an impression at all. I don't think his teammates were that interested in passing the ball to him, it seemed like, and he didn't seem to be that interested in trying to get on the ball. He just seemed to kind of be like moving around and kind of directing other players at times, like, making suggestions about where they should pass and like where some of the movement should be.
Yeah.
I don't really feel like we got enough from him in his like 30-minute cameo, whatever it was, to really even evaluate him in terms of what he can do yet. So we'll have to see if he's more involved in the future.
Yeah, and we saw in the first like couple minutes that he was on there was like quick touch passes and really trying to speed up the offense, which is what you want to see. But after that, it kind of like dropped off, and like you said, guys stopped passing to him, and he wasn't really getting involved in the play. So I hope like right when he came in, I was like, okay, this is what we want. He just moved the ball, create some movement, because we were very stagnant in the game. But like you said, it just kind of faltered off, and the whole team kind of really didn't do much of anything. And again, it's come down to the tactics, and it just wasn't set up in a position to win. Yeah, Cherlinoff in there as well, and he didn't get really much chance to do anything either. So end up losing that game 3-1. And if things weren't worse enough, Dusseldorf decided to take a shot at us after the game. Our man with the beers on his head was there in the game. He looked very sad, and then Dusseldorf says 3 points for us, 3 beers for you. Okay, all right, so. But yeah, it's a game where they get, a team as bad as that, why not take their shots at us? We deserved it. We didn't play well at all. We just got beat off the pitch, laughed off the pitch. Jake says, I'm also feeling even bummed out that Vindheim injury after this game. Yeah, not having Vindheim for a game like this, or a Randful or Aiden, a right winger that we've had to rely upon this season, hurt, and it showed. And when we thought we had depth, all of a sudden it looked like we had no depth at all. And even in defense, I think Malik Tiao looked a little soft in this game. I wasn't too impressed with him. You mentioned Frazel was bad. Paulson, not much to speak of. No one really played well at all, honestly. I can't think. Is there anybody in your eyes that played decent? Schroeder, you're on mute.
Good call. Paulson was okay. He actually had at least one moment where he actually played a nice progressive pass, which is something that I consistently talk about as not being, nearly as much a part of his game as would be beneficial to us. He's very much a solely kind of defensive presence in the midfield, and it relies on the two people that are flanking either side of him to really create going forward. Yeah, and it's not that you can't have somebody that's focused like that positionally, but it's nice if they're able to actually play those passes we need. And there's just too many times where he gets caught in possession and can't connect something. So,
yeah.
But yeah, he was okay. I don't know. The rest, everybody was just kind of average to bad in this game for the most part, outside of like one or two people. So,
yeah, I joked on the call that instead of 6s and 7s, we were all like 3s and 4s in that game. We were playing pretty bad. So enough of the bad, some of the good from the game, or after the game, not from the game. After the game, Florian Flick, he signs an extension with the team prematurely. Actually, his contract doesn't expire yet, but he decided to extend it to either 2024 or 2026. I forget. Do you recall?
2024, yeah. I think it was supposed to expire 2023 originally, and then they extended an extra year. I was happy to see this because as you know, Richard, as well as I do, we have an issue extending young promising players' contracts.
Yeah.
And we constantly find ourselves, having them falling out of contract right as they're sort of reaching peak desirability and sort of awareness on like a more broader European stage. And I know he's also one of those players that they were talking about potentially a loan deal happening for in January, which I thought was a mistake. And I'm glad that he hasn't moved yet. So hopefully this is kind of a statement of intent that they're going to continue to develop him and get him in the mix. We'll have to see and wait. Like, as we were just talking about Paulson, right? Like Flick is the antidote to that. It has other deficiencies in his game that Paulson doesn't have, but I mean, he's the kind of player that can provide that thing that we're not getting at the moment sometimes.
And for the record, we're not trying to hype up Flick. We're very much trying to hype up Mendel right now. So just as FYI, with all the luck we've had lately, Mendel. But yeah, no, this is a good signing for us. Our extension by us. It's good to keep players that are doing well for us. And so another good job by Robin Schroeder to extend him. Hopefully we'll send some other guys. If we can maybe get Ovejan permanently and some of these other guys who are on loan. I know we just did Pieringer as well a couple weeks ago. So yeah, let's just keep signing some of these guys, and hopefully this is going for the Bundesliga. But if we are not to get promoted, at least we can use them again for next season and see what happens. But yeah, it was that's a good signing there, and you need some good news going into the match this tomorrow, Friday. It's against Paderborn, a game that at this point it's a must win. It has to be all must wins because everyone on the top of the table is doing their thing. St. Pauli's winning, Werder's winning, Hamburg, Darmstadt, Heidenheim's catching up. They're tied with us in points. Don't forget Nuremberg, Paderborn are in 8th place, and so this is a big game. They're only 5 points behind us. We need those 3 points. I mean, if we are lucky with some bounces and plays, if Darmstadt and Hamburg lose or all top 4 teams lose, we can get right back in this mix, but we cannot afford another slip up like we did this past week. I don't even think a draw is good enough. I think we need to win this game. It has to. We won the first. I think we won the first game, right? 1-0.
Yeah, 1-0.
Yeah, with Terodde. We need to win this game, Jack. How confident are you going into this game tomorrow? It's a midday kickoff game, as Nate said on the USA Schalke fan group. ESPN Plus is actually picking up coverage of this. We will not be streaming the game because we both work, but ESPN Plus will be streaming the game, which is great for all of us here on this side of the pond. So, confidence level heading into this game, Jack.
It's interesting because Schalke has been a much better home team this season than a road team, and the opposite is true for Paderborn. They've been much better away from home than they have been at home. So something's got to give tomorrow. But I think if you look back at that first game, pretty evenly contested. They had some opportunities that they probably could have taken advantage that they missed. So they certainly had goals in them in that game. I think they just had a lot of shots like off target. When they actually created decent chances that, if some of those shots had been on target, they may have scored some more. A game that we kind of escaped. I think that Terodde goal, if I remember correctly, came from, Bolter kind of dribbling himself all the way into the end line and just playing it backwards. And it was kind of a cheap goal to some extent. And we struggled to create there as well. So, but it's a game I actually expect some goals. I expect more goals in this one than the first time around. You got Terodde in there. You got Sven, who's same goal tally, I think 14 probably at this point.
I think so, yeah.
You have somebody like Proger or something who can play some crosses in and do some things out from sort of the right wing who's dangerous. They have some pieces. They can score some goals. So I don't know. I agree with you. I think this is going to be a very important game. The Dusseldorf result is horrible and just really stupid in terms of the course of our season. But I feel like this game is almost more important where, if they pick up 3 points against us, we're suddenly drawn into their gravity. And it's going to be 2 points separating us at that point. And we really want to make sure we're keeping contact with, the Hamburgs of the world and kind of, contesting at least that third place position and staying within, a result kind of jumping in there so that we can take advantage of that gap if Hamburg slip up. So this is a pretty crucial game. Yeah.
And this is worrying for me because Paderborn played us tough, right? And you look at some of the big games that they played this season, especially the second half in the most recent times. Darmstadt, who's up there, they lost to Darmstadt 1-0. Tough game there. Heidenheim, a team who's above them in the table, they lost to them 2-1. In a friendly against Wolfsburg, they lost 5-4. It's a friendly, right? But it's still, they played a Bundesliga team pretty well. Nuremberg, they beat them 2-1. Werder Bremen, they lost 4-3. So they got some goals in them. Against St. Pauli, a top of the table team, 2-2. They drew Dynamo this past weekend, but against the good teams in the league, they got pretty decent results. And I'm worried about that. And Gramozzi needs to bounce back after that, and they need to take this game seriously. Fix that right wing situation. I don't want to see Bolter out there again. I love Bolter. I want to see him on the pitch, not at the right wing. I mean, if Ranful or Idend isn't available, Trilinov, Matriciani, I don't really care. It's not Bolter. It's not working out, and maybe it's time to go back to Bolter and Terodde up top. And it's good to see Peringer. Bolter comes off as a substitute, nice as well. But the three of them, as much as I want to see them, I would rather see them in an attacking three, not Bolter on the wing or even Peringer on the wing. So
yeah, it's one of those things where it's I don't think he would have played Bolter there if it was an opponent other than Dusseldorf. And so the fact that that's the case, I feel like means that you shouldn't have done that in the first place.
Yep.
If you typically wouldn't do that, but you're just saying, oh, it's this opponent, so I can maybe get away with it. I don't know. And I don't know what went into that decision. Maybe it was I have to play somebody who's formed to this position. Both there's a high IQ player, I trust him back there or something like that. But it seems that there's definitely, so I mean, like once again, Trilanov ended up playing in this game. At least give him like 60 minutes or something in that position. I don't know. It just seems strange for me.
Yeah, you could easily flip that, right? Start Turlin off and bring in Boulter, and maybe that would have worked. Who knows? But
yeah, but I mean, last time we played Paderborn, they were second in the table at the time behind Regensburg, and they'd gotten off to a hot start. So roles are a little bit reversed now in terms of our table position to some extent. But we know this is a competent team, and the entire top half of the table is still relatively tight in terms of the points and everything. So this is a game with big implications for sure.
Funny enough, Regensburg and Paderborn were top of the table last time we played. Both of them are now 8th and 9th. I mean, they got off hot and they kind of really cooled off, but Paderborn's still playing well. Obviously, they're barely losing these games or drawing these games. So it's a big game. We'll see what comes up with the lineups here tomorrow. Again, the game is 12:30 Eastern time, 11:30 Central time, your time. So it's a big game. We'll see what happens here. I'm curious. I know we'll see Lee Dong-jong at some point. I doubt he'll start, but we'll see what the lineups are. That's going to be very curious to see when it comes out. So, hopefully get a win and we don't end up blankets wrapped around us and freezing cold as we're crying because we're not going to be able to move up the table here.
It's a great picture, actually. That's pretty cool.
It is. That's why the only reason I put it up here. I liked it. I was like, okay, it's pretty nice. But, any final thoughts here before we wrap this one up? Like I said, big game tomorrow. I don't know, must win.
Final thoughts are shout out Rangers. And if you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I do know. The Glasgow Rangers.
And I'll leave it at
that.
That's
right. I will. That's a good call. Good shout. Can we get sponsored by them? All right, Schalke Nation, Schalke Americans. That's gonna wrap this one up. We're gonna put a bow on this one. No stream tomorrow. That's Friday, so the game is gonna be ESPN Plus. So definitely check it out. No illegal streams you're going to have to do in this one, at least if you're on this side of the pond, or at least in the States, I guess. I don't know about Canada. Shout out to Schalke Canada as well. Jack, where can our followers find you on social media?
At JMMangan, JMMANGAN on Twitter.
Very good, very good. You can follow me at R_KHARMAN. Shout out to NBC4 Nashville. We always see you. You don't see us, apparently. It's all right. Anyway. On that note, we'll catch you on the next podcast. Glück auf.